Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program at the crossroads of religion and life. A series of programs highlighting the social and cultural interaction between the worshiping and larger communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Area Conference of Churches in cooperation with KTBC. Join us now in today's Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Richard Thompson, pastor of Central Presbyterian Church, and your host for today in this series, Austin Faith Dialogue. As this is brought to you through the Austin Area Conference of Churches, it's our privilege today to focus on a topic, the religious response to hunger in Austin. Now, after hearing that title, Hunger in Austin, you might think that that's a contradiction in terms. For a widely held view is that the capital city is largely exempt from such deprivation. Because the seat of government is here, the University of Texas, an air base, a high-tech corridor, all of these we think perhaps cushion us from economic shock. But it doesn't take too close a look below the surface to detect signs of hungry people. It may come in the form of a solitary figure ferreting out scraps of food from a dumpster. More likely, it's found in the sight of lines of people waiting to be fed at one of the emergency shelters or at one of the commodities days at the city's neighborhood center, or at any one of a number of pantries scattered throughout the metropolitan area. Now, the sight of this need in the midst of a nation with agricultural surplus, where a multitude of others are crowding into Weight Watchers programs, well, that's enough to stir our conscience deeply. Now, what is it that the religious community is doing to respond to this dilemma? A dilemma that's taking on crisis proportions. And what more could and should be done that's not happening now? To explore these issues, we have as our guest today Jill Mayfield, Community Relations Coordinator of the Capital Area Food Bank, Major Robert Bagley of the Salvation Army, and Jerry Eichhorn, Director of Caritas. Jill, if we may start with you.
Pleasure.
And give us an overall view, if you can, of hunger in Austin as the Area Food Bank has been able to define that for us.
We're pleased to. It's on the upswing, unfortunately. In the last year, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of people, the pantries and food serving and soup kitchens that we serve are serving. Last year, we touched about 200,000 people in the Austin, Central Texas area and distributed 3.25 million pounds of food. And the previous year in '86, we distributed 2.4 million pounds of food. And we're also seeing a change in the face of the people that are needing that food, that are going to the pantries. It's families, young mothers, working people who can't make ends meet. And so we've really seen our numbers increase, and the people that are coming to us, pantries, and wanting to be members and receive food from us is increasing daily.
I see. So you have a total number of people that have come to see you that's increasing, and you're not implying that that's all of the hunger that there is in the city?
Oh, not by a long shot.
Okay. Let's see if we can dig a little deeper on that, Major Bagley. Give us your picture of the extent of hunger in Austin.
Well, basically, what Jill has said is true at our agency as well. we're seeing a greater number, especially now that we moved into the new facility. The old facility was taxed beyond any sensible use of that facility, I would say. Now we have space that we can feed 150 at one sitting, and we're able to do all of our serving for the evening meal within an hour.
Okay, and as far as the total number that you've served, for instance, in 1988, compared to where you were this time last year, do you see an increase?
We have seen an increase. It's about 40 per day increase now over a year ago.
All right.
And for the evening meal. And the breakfast meal is even greater because more people are living in the facility at night, therefore they're there and close by for the breakfast meal. I would say 55 to 60 more per breakfast per day than before.
Okay.
And that's almost double what we were doing.
Double from the preceding year.
Right.
All right. Jerry, if you could give us a picture of the hunger need as you perceive it from Caritas.
You may not know, Reverend Thompson, that we feed a noon sandwich line. And this is mostly transient street people, but quite a few others who have homes but just happen to be in the downtown area. We've seen those numbers almost double in the last 90 days. People who come for a noon meal. We also give out bags of groceries to people, to families who come inside Caritas, who food stamps have run out. Either they're elderly and living on SSI and not entitled to these programs, some people newly out of work, some of them illegal immigrants. Whatever the cause, when people come to us and they're hungry, we will try to help them out with food.
All right.
And those numbers also have increased.
So I hear all of you saying that there is a considerable increase this year compared to last. I think that it's helpful to get just a bit more perspective on what we're talking about as far as the extent, because, Jill, how many pantries, for instance, are served through the Austin area food bank, capital area?
Through the Capital Area Food Bank, right now we have a little over 100, about 102, but I have 3 applications on my desk right now. Those pantries are from Killeen to Buda, Marble Falls, Smithville, so we serve the Central Texas area too. A year ago we had 80 pantries.
Okay, so over 20, 25 increase just in the number of pantries.
Right, in the number of pantries, and that's also soup kitchens, low-income daycares. We serve agencies just such as that, a real cross-section. We've seen all those increase over the past year dramatically.
And can any of you give us a view of what, for instance, the city of Austin or Travis County or this metropolitan area overall figures, apart from those who would come, for instance, Major Bagley, to your place in the form of persons that are transient and having to spend the night and so on. Do you have a global picture of how much is the need in this area?
Well, I don't have statistical data to tell you what's going on at every agency, but in addition to the transient that we feed and house, we also serve the local needy families. And that aspect of our program has increased as well. Now, I might say that Caritas, Travis County, many of the churches that work with people in this community all work together. We will verify various bits of information. We'll determine what help has been given.
Checking between one agency and another.
And you know, hunger sort of reaches out into other facets of daily life. There's a utility bill, there's rent, medication, and things of that nature that have to be supplied as well if a family's not able to provide food for itself. And sometimes 3 or 4 agencies work together to provide a utility bill or rent bill, pay the mortgage, or to get a car fixed or what have you.
So that meeting the hunger need, and I know this is true in your case, Jerry, is not the only focus of Caritas, but a variety of services.
That's true. We try to meet any emergency need that a family or an individual might have. And as Major Bagley says, that can take the form of almost any kind of emergency assistance. And I want to reiterate, too, what Major Bagley has said, that we work very, very closely. The agencies in Austin have a marvelous sense of cohesiveness when it comes to trying to help the needy people.
How, for instance, Jill, is it that your agency would interact with these two that are represented by Major Bagley?
Well, we share information. That's one of the primary things. We are all on a phone call away from one another, and I have no, we call each other a lot, that's for sure, to find out what's going on in the community. Several of these agencies receive food from us, are members of the food bank, and we can supply them with food. Above that, like I say, there is a real sense of cohesiveness about church pantries, community groups, community action agencies, Salvation Army, Caritas, that we do talk with one another and share information to try to meet the needs.
Now, the question is, and I can't help but think about this as you talk about meeting the needs and how they're increasing, and there was a reference once about a safety net, that in our society we are providing, according to an administration spokesman at the national level, a safety net that keeps people from really falling in a fatal way. Is that safety net intact in Austin?
I would say that the agencies in Austin do very well. If there is a real need, we know that people get hungry 3 times a day. We're not talking about a hunger pain that hits you at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're not talking about that at all, but we're talking about people who have enough food on a daily basis, I think, to keep them going. I don't know of anybody that's starving in this community.
All right, that maybe is a good way to put it. Is there anyone that either the other two of you know of instances of death by starvation in and around Austin?
Well, that's really hard to target, because what is starvation? Hunger sometimes is not someone dying, but hunger is a more subtle thing where a child doesn't get enough calcium, enough protein day to day, that he's lost his potential when he grows up and files for that application for college or for a job. He's lost his potential, or she's lost their potential, because in their formative years their nutrition was minimal or was not sufficient, and they may eat every day. But hunger it's a very subtle topic, and it has a broad definition. So I would say that sometimes there are worse things. People don't meet their full potential and can't be part of the community.
All right, malnourished is distinct from starvation. All right, yes, Jerry.
That's a distinction where nutrition comes in as opposed to just feeding. But I think one of the things that makes the problems worse is that many of the people who are suffering from hunger, you might say, don't have the knowledge, the training, and the capability of stretching what resources they have to get the maximum use out of it. That's one of the things we see, where there are wholesome foods available, but if you don't know how to prepare them and to get them on the table in a proper way, the people are not going to be able to make use of what resources they have. I think your question had to do with the national safety net that the President has talked about. The safety net is there, but it's porous. If you lose your job and you need to go on food stamps, true, there are emergency procedures, but before you can get lined up with a steady source of help coming in, if you haven't got any resources, any savings, you're going to be hurting for a while.
I would say it has some pretty big holes.
Yeah.
All right.
It's porous.
Very big holes in the net.
Well,
Yes, Major?
it will require that the person needing the assistance get out, get motivated, and start looking. I mentioned a few moments ago there are several agencies that work together on large utility bills, large rent bills, and that prospect is intact for anybody that needs help. My social worker is in touch with Caritas every day, Travis County, several of the other church groups that go it on their own. And there is help available, but the person has to get out and look for it. I have one social worker right now. We're going to put on 3, 4 more social workers later. But she has all she can do, seeing 24 to 25 cases a day. And that will range anywhere from food from the pantry to help with rent or help with utilities, things of that nature.
Well, you know, in this social net that we come back to as a kind of pattern for our thinking. I understand, Jill, and as one that's connected with national policymakers through the food bank, that there is a decrease in the number of commodities in terms of the programs and what's there. What's happening? Are we exporting more now and there's less that's available internally?
I'm not really sure. It's such a complex situation. Commodities and USDA commodities and farm support programs are, I have a hard time trying to understand, and I'm doing some research on that presently. But from what I can see and what we know exactly, USDA told us last November commodities are going to run out, and they are. As of April, we will lose rice and honey, and as of May, we'll lose non-fat dry milk and cheese. And from what we know, we won't see that again. There's a lot of we don't knows. And as far as the commodities program, and it's pretty scary, frankly.
All right, so all of a sudden we run out of cheese that has been given away through this commodities program.
Since 1981 or two.
Okay.
I'm not really sure when it started.
And is that going to impact what you gentlemen do in your agency?
Absolutely.
How so?
Giving out a bag of groceries without any protein in it is not doing very much for anybody. And the federal agricultural surplus cheese is one of the principal sources we have of adding protein into that grocery bag. We supplement that with food that we have to buy. We buy chickens. During deer season, we get deer meat. But to put a package of food together for someone, you've got to have a balance. And if we have to go out and buy more food to replace the cheese we're not getting, it's going to mean an impact on our budget.
Okay, so that's going to have a very clear result there. What about in your case?
Very definitely it will have an impact. We serve cheese for breakfast. We serve a slice of cheese at the evening meal, except on days when we have macaroni and cheese, or we use cheese in the cooking and preparing of the food. And we use quite a bit of cheese, quite a bit of butter. Rice is almost an everyday occurrence at our place.
Okay, so when this is no longer available, what are you going to do?
Well, we're going to have to buy if we use it. It's just going to make it very difficult for us.
It's going to mean, in your case?
Diversion of funds from possibly rent or utility assistance into buying more food, because we handle about 30 families a day that need food right there. And 30 bags of groceries a day, if you've been to the supermarket recently, is a pretty expensive proposition.
$900 to $1,000 right there a day.
That's right. We spend, in supplementing food bank and local donations and all, we spend about $1,500 a week just supplementing that.
Okay, so it means you're going to have to divert from other aspects of your service. It's going to mean that you have to just make it spread out more thinly, your resources otherwise.
More water in the soup.
Okay.
That's
Now,
already thin enough.
That's right.
let's just keep on that for a bit, because it seems to me what we're doing here is we're going beyond some of the surface manifestations and trying to get at some of the causes of why the safety net isn't as strong as it should be, why it's beginning to break. And what can be done about that? Well, one of the answers, I suppose, is, that people can contribute more to these various agencies, the three that you represent, the others that are in the community. We're in a difficult time economically in the Austin area. The contributions have been under some strain as far as, have you found a change in, as the need has gotten greater, has your income gone up, or has it stayed the same, or has it gone down?
The number of our contributors is up. The size of the donations are down. We're running almost even with a year ago. So we're just hoping and praying that it'll stay the way it is.
Okay.
We're finding it pretty much the same.
Same pattern?
Yeah.
All right.
Now that doesn't mean that we're serving every client that we would if we could. We're using our resources to the fullest, and there are more people we can help who meet our criteria, but we don't have enough.
All right. What about in your case, Jim?
I would say it's just about the same. Contributions are smaller. I would say, though, that in our terms, food is also something that we ask for in food drives, and that's up. We put out the word, and people do donate food. I think the Austin community is a caring community.
Very much.
And when we have food drives, we have phenomenal numbers, and everything from the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts on up to major food drives that we have that people contribute. But
Now, your agency is not a church-related agency as such.
no, it's not.
But you do have church support, is that correct?
That's right. Some of
the-
our large support in the community is from individual churches.
All right. And would it make a big difference as far as if the religious community was not supporting that, what you would be able to do?
Oh, a large difference, yes. Our support, and we were actually begun by a group of people with Metro Ministries and some other concerned people in '81 got together. And so there are a lot of religious communities involved in the food bank, though it's not a religious organization in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It receives a large amount of support from religious organizations throughout town.
All right. As Salvation Army, the very name implies a religious commitment.
Right.
Major, what can you tell us about the support from other aspects of the
Well,
religious community?
Of course, we get support from across the community. We are part of the United Way. They also support us. But we also get direct contributions from churches and church people, of course. And it's been a big part of our operation from day to day.
Okay. Caritas is a agency that is right next to St. David's, and is a symbol, I think, of that connection. Could you spell that out a bit more?
Caritas is a non-profit corporation. It has no ties to any one denomination. We get contributions from across the board, and about 50 to 60 churches include us either in their regular benevolence budget or periodically throughout the year. A large number of individuals whom we don't solicit, they just know about Caritas, so they send money. But we also get support from the federal government in the form of emergency grants. The city gives us an annual stipend, the county, United Way, several foundations. I think our largest grant is about $10,000, but our total budget last year was about $700,000. That's counting the food and all of the things that we work with.
And your organization had a religious impetus to begin with, in terms
Yes.
of the founder. Could you just briefly
Yeah.
give us a picture of that?
Father McCabe came down here from Milwaukee as a young priest, and he got into charity work immediately. And seeing the need for a lot of families, he went back home and got his home parish to commit $400 a month for 2 years. They said, after that, you're on your own. Well, fortunately, he met the Reverend Charles Sumner, who was a rector of St. David's Episcopal Church, and Reverend Sumner's invited Father McCabe to set up Caritas in the old building next to the church. And it's been there ever since, almost 24 years now.
Okay.
But the cooperation among the churches in Austin is something that warms your heart. It's just wonderful.
Now, as I have had occasion to be pastor of a downtown church and experience the hunger and the need as it comes to us in that setting, I'm also keenly aware that what we do as religious community, what is done by the private sector, is limited in its effect. I have the perception that we can, for instance, on a given day, if someone is needing breakfast, they can have that. If they spend the night at the Salvation Army, if they need lunch, they can always find that at Caritas, and then you have your supper again at the Salvation Army in the evening. On weekends, I understand the Baptists have a place that people can come. The name of that is?
It's the Baptist Chapel on East First Street.
Okay.
That also covers holidays as well, when other agencies might be closed.
So there is a sense in which that no one need go hungry if there is this sort of cooperative network in place. However, I'm also aware of the fact that all of this is so interconnected. and that unless there are policies brought into play that help the unemployment situation, that build up I know, Jill, I've had occasion to hear you say that there's a connection between hunger and housing, systemic approach to dealing with the problem. Could you comment briefly on that, please?
Hunger is such a broad-based thing that I think one of the ways that we need to vote. Foremost, we need to look at policies of our government and study them carefully and be responsible Americans and vote. But hunger is cyclic, and it's very hard to know really what it does and what it causes. But like I say, those children who don't eat a good meal don't reach their full potential. And I think it's very hard to know what causes it and how it continues.
Focus just a bit on housing in Austin. The fact that that there is less affordable housing, that that is a symptom of a more general need.
I would say so. People just can't afford the housing. As the economy has changed from a manufacturing-based sector, and we've seen many of the jobs go overseas, people's jobs have been replaced by service economy jobs. And they may be working, but they're working poor. And where a few years ago they had a better job, an industry job, a construction job, now they're working, but they're not making ends meet with the job that they have because the pay is lower. Service economy jobs traditionally are paying much lower, and both family members might be working and still not making ends meet at a minimum wage job, a service job.
So these factors are interconnected, is I think what you're
Therefore,
saying.
the housing, they can't afford the housing, and if the safety net breaks, if one of them loses their job, very likely they'll be homeless within a few months.
And it seems to me what you're implying is the religious response is not simply to contribute more to local agencies such as this to meet the immediate need or to volunteer in helping, but to somehow enter into the affecting of the policies that can make a difference on a broader scale. Would you gentlemen agree with that?
I agree very much so. We need input by every citizen to affect the policies that affect the poor in our nation.
All right. Jerry, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, when I think of the poor, I think of people who had a bad break, you know, something's gone wrong, marriage is broken up, and the problem is more than just housing and more than just nutrition. I think it's a matter of our whole society has got problems. And true, I agree with Jill and I agree with Major Bagley, but there's more to it than just those physical things.
Okay. Well, I think that there's more to this topic than we have opportunity